welcome back to some Blood Crest Manor content. Today we're going to be taking a quick look at something that I made a while back, and it is this concrete skull. Now when I bought this concrete skull, it was just a plain concrete skull, no finish, no nothing, just straight out of a mold. And I got it for, I want to say $3, and which at the time I thought that's pretty good. So I got it. I just wanted to see what would happen if I painted it, based it out in exterior black, and just made it where it would look like this for a long time. And sure enough, it turned out really, really cool. Like, I'm very happy with how this turned out. So when I did it, I tried to get in touch with the guy to make like a deal to where I could like buy them in like bulk, so that way I could paint them and sell them in the gift shop. But the guy really wasn't that kind of seller, you know. He was more of like just your crafts kind of thing. And so he really wasn't interested in doing anything like this in bulk, unfortunately. I then realized that I could go online and buy my own mold. This is the exact same mold as this concrete little figure, I guess you can call him, little pumpkin head. And I really like this thing. Now, this is just going to be my first test. I bought 3 of these molds because they're relatively cheap. I want to say they were like $8 a piece, something like that. So not too bad. It did take me a little time to get them unwarped from how they were shipped. But other than that, they look really good, and I've got them all straightened out. So we should be good to go on that. Now what we're going to be doing to make these is we're going to be using mortar mix. I read up on some things online about how to do this. I think this is the right way. So we're going to try it with mortar mix first. If it works, great. If not, we'll find something to do with it in the haunt. I'll have plenty of uses. But with that being said, if it does work, then I'm going to go ahead and take this 60-pound bag, break it down into the right amounts for this, and then make myself a good amount of them. Paint them up, and then I can have them in the gift shop. And even if I don't sell them all in the first year, which if I do, great. But if I don't, no big deal. They don't take up hardly any space, and I can just then sell them the next year. I'm going to go ahead and get started on trying this. This is my first time trying it. I don't know the right mixtures. I read that it was supposed to be 1 part water, 3 part mortar. So we're going to try that first, because I do want it to be a little bit more loose, so that way it goes into all these crevices real good. On this guy is a lot of deep crevices, and I definitely want them to show up when I do this. So this will be our first test. Let's see how it turns out. Woo! Alright, safety first. We're messing with concrete and you're not really sure if it's going to get on you or not. Go ahead and have this on, respirator. That way if any of the particles from it come up onto me, I'm not breathing it in. Normally when I'm outside, I'm pretty comfortable enough to hold my breath around it. But with stirring it right in my face, better safe than sorry. Alright, so we're going to try 3 cups at first. I do think it's going to take a little bit more than that, but if it does, we'll come back to it. So, 3 cups of mortar needs to be mixed with 1 cup of water. So that's what we're going to go for. Whoop. 3 cups on the money. No, it's really not dusty at all. This is probably unnecessary, but just to avoid any safety concerns and comments, we'll go ahead and wear it anyway. One cup. Okay, 1 cup is definitely not going to cut it. This has got to get poured into a mold, so it needs to be a little bit more liquidy than that. So just to show you, 3 cups and 1 cup of water. Definitely not good enough. I'll be right back with some water. Alright. only going to put a little bit in here. About half a cup. Let's see where that took us. Now this looks a lot better. And remember, you don't want any lumps in your biscuit dough. Alright, so 1.5 cups looks perfect. So this looks pretty good to me. I'm sure some of you concrete guys out there would say, oh, that's soup. Well, again, it's going into a detailed form, so better to have it loose than not. But alright, let's go get down into it and put it into the molds. Alright everyone, so I am inside my craft room here, one hand in it, so you can kind of see what's going on here and get a better angle for you. Alright, so right there, he's about half full. I'm just going to take this needle here and kind of poke it around in there. Try to get out any air bubbles that could be in there. It's definitely a little too liquidy. Next time I'll probably do more like 1.25 cups of water. If 3 cups of mortar is enough, because right now it's starting to look as if it isn't. So I'm basically just going through, putting this needle up against all the detail, and I can see air bubbles coming out and popping, which is a really good sign. That's telling me that this is probably working the way that I hoped that it would. But we definitely don't want any air bubbles in this. And what I'm doing here is kind of like a method for using resin, if you've ever messed with that. I'm just kind of going through, making sure that all the air bubbles in this detail are popped and out of the way. Because that will definitely cause an issue if we have any air bubbles where it shouldn't be. I'm trying my best, I'm doing my best as well to keep the mortar inside of just the mold, trying to keep it off of the outside rim. It will probably not matter because I'll just be able to flake all that off, but just as a precaution, might as well. Alright, that looks pretty good. I think I have gotten all of the edges covered. Try to smooth it over with my needle here. Alright, I'm not too terribly upset about that. Let's see how the other ones go. Definitely looking more like 3 cups is good for 2. Which is interesting to me because I figured that 3 cups would be enough for all of it at first, but looking at it now, it's definitely not. And same as the last one, just while it's half full, just kind of go through. That way we can work these air bubbles up to the top now instead of in a minute. And I don't know if you guys can see it from there or not, but I definitely have some air bubbles coming up. Another good reason why I'm doing it this in here is this table in here is very low. Like this table isn't angled in any way. So that'll be a good thing for like this curing. Alright, I feel like that's pretty good. Let's get us one more here. So 3 cups will definitely be enough for 2, but definitely not enough for 3. That might be too much. Maybe not. Once you fill in all those air bubbles. So yeah, 3 cups is going to do a little bit under 2.5. So I'm going to go get another cup of mortar and see if 4 cups will do it. So 1 extra cup of mortar. Looks like it's going to be more than we need, so maybe 3.5 will be more appropriate. Maybe not. Looks like this thing might be 4 cups, y'all. Alright, so we're just getting it all pushed around real good. Get all of our air bubbles out where we can. Well, it looks like 4 cups is going to be what she calls for. Wow. So 4 cups for 3 of these is what it's looking like. Alright, so I'm noticing that a decent amount of water is puddling up on top of these. That's not really a problem. So I've mashed on them a good bit. Maybe I wasn't aggressive enough, but I think this will do it for now. This is a good test one, so I'm going to go ahead and throw a fan on these, let them sit here for, I don't know, probably a couple of days or so, and then we'll come back and take a look at how they look. But alright everyone, so I'll talk to you back here in just a moment. Alright everyone, so we are back. This is 2 days of curing and drying. And it feels pretty solid underneath. So let's go ahead and crack one of these open and see how she turned out. Okay. Right off the bat, this one is okay. I don't think this one's going to take. But just to see how we're looking. These corners are very flaky. This one's definitely a no. And the stem broke off too. Okay. So they're definitely not done curing. This is 2 days and yeah, she's still a little soft. But as you can see, not too shabby, but I will say we got a bunch of little air pockets in and around it, but that's okay. Now I'm gonna let these sit for another 2 days. I guess, to see how we do. But as you can see, this is pretty loose. So we're going to go ahead and toss this one. Alright everyone, so now we are at day 5 of letting the skull molds cure. And this is just with straight mortar. Now the last time I did this and pulled one out, it really just crumbled apart. That was 2 days. Maybe it was a little ambitious to expect 2 days would work. We are at now 5 days, whole days of letting this sit. So I'm hoping to have a better setup. Now the bottom of this one, I will say, is pretty hard. And it's very much a lot wider and more solid than the last time I did it. Now if you're curious, well, why are you doing this and not waiting longer? Well, the answer is I really don't know. I'm kind of just going by what I've read online somewhere and seeing how it goes. But I didn't really get into like the time periods. So I'm just kind of testing it. So this is day 5. Let's see how we turned out. The issue spot here is right here on the jawbone, like where it wants to meet. And just peeling this off to where it doesn't break that off. The last time I did this, they just shattered right off. This time though, they actually set in pretty good. So yeah, this actually looks a lot better than last time. Fingers crossed. That looks pretty sandy. The stem didn't make it. But overall, it doesn't look too bad. Looks like we had an air bubble develop on the stem. Unfortunately. Because it looks pretty solid. If that stem had made it, this might have been our first success. So alright, here we are. This one is a whole lot more solid. It definitely maybe could go a little bit longer. Considering that this one isn't going to be a keeper, we can go ahead and see what will break it. The old knitting needle. Yeah, so as you can see, it's still pretty flaky. The one that I have inside is like hard as a rock. So I'm thinking it's still just too wet. Because this down here on the bottom is relatively solid. I mean, you can see it's... Well, I was going to keep this one for jokes, but not now. But yeah, so... yeah, it doesn't have a lot of strength. I'm thinking we might have to research out a different mixture. Maybe something that includes some pebble or something like that, or even add in our own pebble to the mortar. Maybe that will help. But right now it just doesn't seem to really have a lot of strength to it. But alright, so I'm going to let the other one sit for like another, at this rate I guess I'll let it sit there for another 5 days maybe. So we'll try it 10 days. And see how we look. This right here definitely looks a little moist. Has a little bit of a moist feel, but not very moist. You know, it's not like you're taking your hand away and it's wet. It's more like just powdery. Yeah, it's hard to say that's wet, but it's also hard to say that it's dry. But anyway, alright, so we're going to go ahead and let the other one sit for a while, and we will try again in a minute. Alright everyone, so we are back now after 17 days, and most of which this has been sitting in front of a dehumidifier. So this should be dry as dry can be. If it isn't dry yet, I don't know what to say. Now I am thinking no matter what, I'm going to go ahead and get some pea gravel and just add a small amount of that to the mixture, and hopefully that will help with some of the stability of it. But we're just going to have to see. Right now it seems like a pretty good solid surface, but looks can be deceiving. But alright, so without further ado, let's go ahead and pull this sucker out. So right now it's seeming pretty well set. It's not breaking off the jawbone this time. That's good. There is some air bubbles, but we can live with some of that. The teeth also are a difficult deal. Goodness. Ladies and gentlemen, we might have our first winner. The stem is intact. There's just some minor air bubbles on here. And for the most part, we are very dry and solid. I think this might be our first winner. Maybe pea gravel isn't necessary after all. Huh. Well, alright. Alright. And as you can see, the teeth really did set in. Now you can see there's like a couple air bubbles here and there. But I feel like those will really be hidden well once I paint it. You do have a little cavity here on the nose as well. But again, I think all that's going to be fine. I'm going to go ahead and paint this, and we're going to go ahead and use it. Hello everyone, so we are now back with a second batch, excuse this, a second batch of these skulls made. So they're still 100% mortar, and this time I'm going to be taking this one out at 7 days. I'm kind of thinking that's probably not going to work. I'm thinking I'm going to try 7 days. If this one doesn't work, then I'll try 10 days. If 10 days doesn't work, then I'll do either 12 or 14 and see how those go. Without further ado, let's see how we look. So, right off the bat, as you can see, it looks pretty solid. I have these sitting in front of a dehumidifier, so it should be doing pretty good at making these dry out well. And just peeking underneath the silicone here, it looks like it's dried. So let's go ahead and give it a shot. These are pretty fragile with the teeth, so I'm just trying to come in and separate out the silicone where I easily can. Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and assume. I'm going to go ahead and assume that this isn't enough. Well, it's definitely a little bit moister than I would want it to be. But it did come out pretty well. So I did chip a tooth there, and I've got some air bubble issue going on here, even though I shook it pretty well. But overall, yeah, it's got a good bit of air bubble. I'm gonna let this one sit and dry out, and I think we want to keep this one. But with that being said, I do think this is probably a little too wet still. I'll probably test another one tomorrow and see how it turns out. I'm gonna let this one sit in front of the dehumidifier for a while and let it just dry out. And I'll be back here with you guys tomorrow to test the next one. Alright everyone, so we are now officially at day 8 of the silicone mold. Now as you can see, day 7 has dried out very nicely since pulling them out of the mold. And for the most part, doesn't have too many issues. The teeth on this one definitely could have been a little better. Got an air pocket on one, and one of them's kind of chipped. But with that being said, I think he's still worthy of keeping. Definitely not worth throwing away. So we're going to go ahead and paint him up and try to make the holes in him a little bit better. But let's see how 8 days looks coming out of the mold. So I'm trying to find like that happy median where I know that I've let it sit enough days. Ooh. This one's in the mold pretty good. I'm gonna have to slowly peel it away. So this one is just a little bit stickier than the other. I'm not sure why. Definitely still looks a tad bit wet, just like the other one did. There we go. So what I find best with this is I just kind of like slowly peel it back from the face and the extremities. And then I try to just gently pull the teeth and the eyes out and the nose. Well, I'm trying. Alright, so again, this one is just a little bit so this one, again, it's a little bit on the damp side. You can tell from the color change. This is 7 days, but yet was sitting out of the mold. Again, we ended up with basically the same air pocket on the tooth. So that's one I'm gonna have to watch out for. And again, there's a decent amount of air bubbles in and around the forehead area. So I'm thinking I'm gonna have to do something a little bit different to make sure these holes, these little air bubbles stop coming up. Excuse me. I thought that the knitting needle, wherever I placed it, over there, I thought that the knitting needle and just raking it across the sides would be enough to make the air bubbles come to the surface, but it doesn't appear to be the case. So we're going to have to definitely address that in future projects. But I think we are definitely on the path here to success. Alright everyone, so now we are back and we are ready to go ahead and do our detail painting of this guy. Now all you missed here was me just doing this guy in a complete base paint of black latex exterior paint. And the reason I do that is because it's going to really go a long way in the longevity of this guy. It will help keep a lot of the water out from the inside of this. And it'll help it with weathering over time if you decide to keep it outside. Now, what we want to be doing to do this is dry brushing. And dry brushing, you basically just take a brush. This chip brush, for example, works pretty good. But you can also use something like this, more standard brush. And I actually find that you get a better, on stuff like this with higher detail, you get a better go with something more straight on the edge versus something more chip brushy like. But anyway, so I'm probably going to be reciting with this. And probably smaller ones for the bone. Now for the stem, I use True Green. And of course I use Apple Barrel, which is like the Walmart brand acrylic paint. No reason not to. It's very convenient for me and it works really well. I also use Jack-o'-lantern Orange for the pumpkin effect. And I use one or two different things for the bone here. You can use white, or you can use toasted marshmallow. Now here, and I'll give you a little close-up, is your difference. This one's white, this one's toasted marshmallow. And so you can kind of see how they gave a different feel. The white gave you more of that concrete look, and the toasted marshmallow gave you more of a bone look. So what we're going to be doing for this one is the toasted marshmallow. Personally, my preference is the toasted marshmallow. But if you like the look of how this white turned out, then white's going to be your feel here. For dry brushing, I typically go for something small like this on detailed painting. This will make a really good one for the stem. And this will be good for the pumpkin of it. And I'll use probably something like this for the bone texture. And to do it, you really just want to come in really gently after you've brushed out all the paint. And it really goes on there nicely. Now you can overdo it. This pumpkin right here, I feel like it got a little overdone, but especially compared to this one. But it's really a dealer's choice kind of thing. You want it to be really thick or heavy on the accent color, then by all means. So without further ado, set these two aside. We're going to go ahead and get this guy done up. Alright everyone, so now we have come to the final stage here of these concrete little statues we got. So as you can see, we have the pumpkin skull out here that we've been recording for, but I also have a few different ones that I've been working on, in which I'll get into those a little bit more in the outro. But since I'm going to go ahead and spray these, I figured go ahead and get them all done at the same time. So I'm going to go ahead and get that done real quick. As you'll see, it's pretty simple. You just take you some, I like Karl spray finish myself. This is satin finish, but sometimes gloss or matte is a little bit better. You just have to kind of decide on the project you're using. In this case, I'm going to hit all these guys with satin. I think that'll be just fine. The one thing I will caution you on with this stuff is that if you use too much, it can cloud up your detail. So it can really make it look hazy almost, if that makes sense. So don't overdo it with this. You certainly can't. So what you just want to do is make sure it's got a good glaze. You don't want it too thick. If it's running, you've done way too much. You just want a simple little glaze, just spray over it. And that will be plenty to make sure that your acrylic paint doesn't peel, crack, or wear out with the weather. If anyone leaves one of these outside right now as they are, all this acrylic you see would just eventually fall apart. It would look really bad really fast. So I'm gonna go ahead and get this done real quick, and I'll bring you along with me. Alright, so as you can see, pretty simple little process there. Now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna let them dry for about 20 minutes, 30 minutes tops. And then I'll come back. I'm going to go ahead and flip them over so that way I can spray them on the underside as well, and make sure I didn't miss any openings. You can overdo it, but you can also underdo it. If you don't hit all the spots that have acrylic, that acrylic will crack or fade over time. So I'm going to come back here in just a moment once this dries pretty fast, and I'll talk back to you in just a moment. Alright everyone, so that is going to be it for our concrete molds and how to make these. At first, when I first made these and pulled them out, I was thinking I'm going to have to figure out like a mixture of mortar and pea gravel. But as I just decided to let them dry longer and longer, I realized that really isn't necessary. Just let them go for the proper amount of time. And in the case of all of these, the skull in particular, it takes about 7 days. before they're removable from the mold without breaking them. So I would say as long as you're within this size range, 7 days is going to be about what you're running at. With that being said, that's plenty for me as far as how many I can get at a time. And this is about making 3 of these is 4 cups of mortar. So it's not that bad in cost, and detailing them is actually kind of fun. As you can see, I kind of like these Reapers. As you can kind of see, they turn out really cool looking. I'm pretty happy with all of it, including the little voodoo doll I have and these ghosts. So I'm really kind of getting a hang for it, and I have to be honest with you guys, it's not hard at all. Just go ahead and give it your own shot and see what you can make. They sell these molds on Amazon and other places pretty cheap. So if it's something you really want to get into, you can. You can also do these out of resin, which could be easier for some of you. It would definitely probably be faster on the drying, but I'm really not too sure on that. But other than that, everyone, that's going to be it for these. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Let me know how you think we did. And if you like these, but don't want to make them, by all means, come out to the haunt when we open up. These will be for sale in the haunt gift shop, including these little ghosts and these little Reapers and voodoo dolls and pumpkin skulls. Well, we might expand that later on, but for now, this will be our selection with just a bunch of varying colors and whatnot. But alright everyone, so without further ado, I'll talk to you here next time. Ooh.